All right, everyone. Welcome to the Forget Perfect newsletter monthly leader interview series. And I am excited to welcome Caitlin Sampson to this month's interview. Caitlin is an HR manager at Trivector based in North Alabama. Caitlin, welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Um, Caitlin and I have become friends. We've known each other for what, like a year, little over a year now.
That
Um,
sounds right.
yeah, and met like at a cold call coffee where we connected instantly. So one of the things I love about Caitlin is just her instant just authenticity and connection, and you're really good at connecting with people. Okay, so now it's about you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your leadership journey?
Sure. So I am an HR manager for Trivector Services here in North Alabama, as you said, and I love everything about HR. I accidentally got into HR because of the impact that you could have on people, and you also never have the same day twice, and I am here for that. From a leadership perspective, I have always been interested in signing up for all the things, doing all the things, meeting all the people, having all the impact, not only from a self-fulfillment point of view, but also from the perspective of what you are able to do for the people around you and for your community. So since I was a senior, no, freshman in high school,
Yeah.
I did all the things. I was class president, and I did conferences, not only for HR conferences, that you organize statewide, but I also did that for student affairs when I worked there, several different board positions. And so all of them have not always been in HR. But I am all about engaging with people and being able to make an impact.
Yeah, I love that. So, what does the term leadership mean to you?
Loaded question number one. Thank you, Vitale. So it's hard to define leadership, but when I think of leadership and what that means to me, the two words that come to mind are influence and inspiration. So, in my opinion, the leaders that are effective leaders inspire and influence the people around them to be better.
Right. Yeah. So when you think about leadership decisions that you're making and choices you've made, like what are your values that influence your leadership style and decisions?
Sure. So I am a fan of honesty is the best policy, though it is not always the easiest policy. As an HR person, honesty is always the way to go for me. It is easy for me to be honest because I'm a terrible liar. Even when I try to fib or tell my child a little story about why it's already bedtime, and I try to come up with a, we'll call it a fib. We won't call it a lie, but my face does this weird thing. And so honesty is really important. I think that that is something that has guided me and what helps me make decisions. Authenticity is huge to me
Mhm.
because I think that that is something that when you are not authentic, when you are not your true self, people pick up on that, and that leads to distrust, and
Yeah.
nothing good comes from that. I also think that education is important to me. And I'm not talking about formal education, though important. I'm talking about school of hard knocks, figure it out, ask the people around
Yeah.
you. All of those things are what I rely on to help me make decisions.
Yeah, I love that. So what would you say your leadership style is?
I don't guess I should say hot mess express, because that's what I feel most of the time. I think my leadership style is very situational. It depends on the audience, depends on the situation, it depends on what role I have to be. So in HR, for example, there are times that I have to be the counselor, therapist, kind, um, motherly, like take care of you. And then there are some times where I have to be a hammer and
Yeah.
I have to be more assertive. And so it just really depends.
Yeah. What do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions about leadership?
So I, there's a couple, but I think I can best answer that question by talking with you a little bit about a recent conversation that I had with my sister. So my sister and I are only a couple of years apart, and you could not have a more different set of sisters. So I am a diehard extrovert, love to talk to the people, sign up for all the things. My sister, however, is a scientist. She spends a lot of her days looking through a microscope. She has been published in a countless number of articles, and she will take 11 flights of stairs not to have small talk in an elevator.
Okay.
I am not here for that. So she and I were recently talking about leadership and how it looks really different for different people inside of different industries. So a misconception I think that we have about leadership is leadership does not mean being the loudest in the room. It does not mean being the smartest person in the room. It does not mean being the person with the title.
Mm-hmm.
So when I think about a misconception with leaders, and it might be a traditional thing, more old school thing, and we're smarter now than we were, decades ago with what it means to be a leadership. But I think that there are still some cases where we think that you have to be the loudest in the room or the most extroverted. And my sister and I are good examples because we are leaders, but we lead very differently in our industries.
Yeah. So I love that. And it's interesting. I've been thinking a lot about, this is off topic, but we're just going to go with the flow. Um, I've been having a lot of conversations because I do a lot of work on trust. And, there's a lot of different arguments between like, is trust earned or is trust given? And I believe that trust is given. And I believe that trust is given, like, especially is important for leaders to model, like leaders of people. And it's been interesting because I'm having a lot of conversations with senior leadership teams where the senior most leader is a trust is earned sort of person versus trust is given. And so I always find that interesting in terms of leadership styles and how that, shifts the style based on
That's
just
a
that.
good question. I mean, my wheels are just turning
Yeah.
up here. I'm going to have to give some thought to that because there's got to be some factors at play there.
Yeah.
I mean, the people that trust me, I would like to think that I've earned it, but I had to have been given the opportunity
Right.
to do so. Oh, that's loaded.
I know. So it's I think a pretty, yes, definitely a loaded question. And there are very strong opinions on both sides. And I think that, both can apply, but I'm a big believer trust is given. Okay. So one of the things that you are an extrovert and I am like borderline extrovert, introvert. I can be both, but I'm not like 100% extrovert like you are. And so you are in all the things, like all the leadership positions, chairing this conference and chairing this board, and just everyone, like you light up a room and everyone, just they do. Like, I mean, I was watching you at the Alabama SHRM conference, like just everyone really admires you, enjoys you. And so I'm just wondering with all of I mean, you're a mother, you're a wife, I mean, you're a family person. I mean, you're doing all the things. So how do you think you manage like your well-being along with all the stress, right? Because there's a lot of demands on you in every different area of your life. How are you managing it?
TBD.
Yeah.
So thank you for saying all of those really nice things about me. It comes from a place of authenticity. It also, I think, what I'm passionate about, I hold near and dear to me and want to always do the best that I can do. To your point, I'm in a season in my life that it is hard for some of those make time for yourself, work-life balance. What is that? Maybe we like the work-life integration phase better. And it's complicated. When people ask me that, Caitlin, how do you do all the things that you do? I'm really quick to say that I don't get a lot of sleep and I have a very patient husband.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
like what that means is, because I'm such a diehard extrovert, being around all of these people and doing all of these things, be it at work and having
Yeah.
to have the opportunity to have impact with people here, or doing a different position within the community, or my kids' soccer team, or whatever the case may be, you get to engage with people all day long. And that provides a lot of energy for me. Um, I think I rely a lot on my tribe,
Yeah.
the people around me. So my husband, one of my favorite people in the world, and he knows me probably better than I know me.
Yeah.
And I value his feedback. And so there are times that, at the end of the day, when the stress is daunting, or I feel like I've given every bit of me away all day, be it to our children or my job, or
Mhm.
I rely on him, for some uh, grounding,
Yeah.
if you will.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's my husband, sometimes it's my best friend, sometimes it's my sister.
Yeah.
But there again, as an extrovert, people,
Yeah.
honest people that will tell me when I need to take a break, and will tell me when I'm being irrational or dramatic,
Yeah.
or if I need a pep talk.
Yeah, totally. I also think there are seasons. Like I'm in a season, and the season may be a very multi-year season because I'm growing my
Don't
business.
tell me that.
I do think well, a season could be for a few weeks. A season can be for a quarter. I think it just depends on where you are in your life. I really struggle with the question, like, what are you doing for self-care? Which is why I didn't ask that, because that question always, there's probably a moment of reflection for me, but it always like triggers me. But it's something even I'm working on right now, because I'm working the most I've ever worked in my entire life. And it's things that I do. And it's also because I'm really trying to be present. One of my mottos is be where your feet are. And so I'm really trying to be present for the toddler, the teenager, my husband, the growing business. We're hiring people. I'm reviewing my current chief of staff. Like there's just like all these different, business growth, current servicing of clients. There's just a multitude of friends, all of that stuff. And so I'm in a season of just really like giving myself a lot of grace, because I don't have it all figured out. You know, life is very full right now.
I do find myself saying, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
It might be uncomfortable and I might have bags under my eyes. Um, but I'm making it the best as I can, just like the next person
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. And also
But I wouldn't trade it.
right. I also remind myself that the version of me 5 years ago would kill to be where I am today.
Oh, that's a good one.
You know what I'm saying? Like truly, if I think about the things that I wanted when I started my business, and how lonely things felt, or maybe how slow business felt, or that I was doing things with no ROI. And you know what I'm saying? I think about like, I'm like, because I think that's one of the things I've been trying to do, is even just pause and be grateful for how far I've come, and even celebrate that. I think we as overachievers tend to forget that sometimes.
I totally agree.
Yeah. Okay. So the workplace is evolving. Obviously, you're in HR, so you're seeing like the needs of the industry, your organization. The needs are constantly shifting, I would say, especially with AI. But like, what do you think are some of the most important skills and qualities of leaders are that you're looking for, or even that are on the horizon?
Sure. So I think effective leaders have strong levels of emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
That's a big one, because it not only deals with what's in here, but also what's projected out there. So emotional intelligence is important because it's how you self-regulate. It's how you handle the knee-jerk response when you want to get mad or when you want to be sad. There's some vulnerability in that as well. And I think that leaders knowing when and how to be vulnerable, builds relationships with their teams. And I
Yeah.
think that that's an important piece. And so regardless of what happens in the workplace, be it AI, be it automation, be it obviously from an HR perspective, and how the first 6 months of the year have gone so far, we are in like culture whiplash.
Yeah.
um, Emotional intelligence is important. How you communicate with people, how you treat people, how you know your people,
Yeah.
knowing your audience. Those things aren't, the skills related to those things aren't going to change.
Right. Yeah. I love that you said that. I think that's the first time someone has actually just said the term emotional intelligence. When I do these interviews, I totally agree. We do emotional intelligence assessments for our clients, and we do a lot of trainings around it. And our assessment's pretty in depth, and it measures like 15 areas of your emotional intelligence. I mean, empathy, assertiveness, impulse control, decision making, stress tolerance. And it's really interesting too, because I love it. Like, I love to know, like, how do your emotions impact your ability to make effective decisions? How do your emotions impact your ability to see reality? How do your emotions impact your ability to manage stress? Like, we use it when we're hiring people because they're
I can see that being a valuable tool.
right, flexibility, stress tolerance, all those things are really good. It doesn't mean, and the one thing I do love about emotional intelligence too is that you can change it, which is a tool, because I have a hard time with a lot of the tools that like kind of box you in. Like DISC is great, but you're also sort of boxed in. This is kind of who you are. I mean, it's tools, right? But emotional intelligence is like, this is your current state, and how do we want to move to the future state? But yes,
Right.
I think emotional intelligence is critical.
Well, and I think for leaders too, being able, if you have a strong regard for emotional intelligence, you are then able to put yourself in a seat and say, I am the best person to handle this, or I am not the
Yeah.
best person to handle this. And this is why. I think one of the greatest pieces of advice that I've ever gotten was hire your weakness. Have
Yeah.
people around you that are good at things that you're not.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think anyway, so yeah, I believe like emotional intelligence is important, being aware of, what your current state is so you can move into a future state. So love that you said that. You've obviously heard a lot about, I've talked, one of the reasons we connected was you read my book and overcoming perfectionism. And obviously you've seen me present several times. So I'd love to know, like, where are you in your overcoming perfectionism journey? What pieces of perfectionism are loudest for you right now?
Oh gosh, such a loaded question. I think perfectionism is hard for me because, and Vitale, I'm going to go way back and talk about my eighth grade English teacher, Mr. Reed, who said that good enough was an excuse.
Okay.
And, at whatever age you are in the eighth grade, that was really meaningful to me because as you're completing assignments and as you are learning how to be an adult, it's really easy to say, that's good enough.
Yeah.
I got it done. I checked the box. But that was really inspiring and motivating for me because that's status quo, right? And I don't want to be status quo. And so how do I do more with less? How do I do more in shorter spans of time? So I think in terms of where I'm at in the perfectionism journey, and I wouldn't call myself a perfectionism, but I think the people are a perfectionist, but I think the people around me would call me that. I am trying to remember that everything is a season.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe that's my pep talk, given where I'm at with we're in open enrollment right now at work. And I have, like I said, I have two young kids. One of them did not sleep through the night yesterday. But this is just this season. And it's okay if it is not as perfect or as pretty as I had pictured.
Yeah.
Because everything is figure outable. We'll handle it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And also a reminder, you're a recovering perfectionist. It's not
Yeah, I don't know if I'm there yet.
no, I mean, you are, like, just even acknowledging that perfectionism is showing up for you makes you a recovering perfectionist, excuse me. Because again, like I like to say when I'm doing the trainings, it's like, once you see this stuff, you can't unsee it. So
The truth.
and the there's never an end point. Like, I've taught this stuff forever. I mean, I've battled it for most of my life, and it's still, there's different layers of my perfectionism that humble me on a daily basis. I'm like, oh,
maybe in 5 years, I'll be there where you are.
well, I know. Um, So we talked about earlier, like the trust is earned versus trust is given. And I do the majority of the work in my business on trust and helping organizations create systems where trust will thrive. And so I think it's one of the most important, I think it is the most important part of a workplace, a culture, a leadership. And so I'd love to just hear your point of view of trust and the importance that it plays in the workplace.
Sure. So I agree with you that trust, I mean, if you don't have trust, nothing else happens.
Right.
I mean, investments don't happen, loyalty doesn't happen. So I think that you are spot on with having to have that trust. And as an HR person, that starts way even before they apply or
Right.
before I go out and recruit somebody. It comes into play with what our organization represents and what it is that we do. Have you heard of the book The Payroll Promise?
No.
Oh, put it on your read list. So
Okay.
Ben Eubanks, he just released it a couple months ago, but The Payroll Promise is not a payroll book. It is, as an employee, or you trust that your employer is giving you a check
Right.
regularly. So what did you do to earn that? Or in Vitale's words, what did you do to give that? And it's really interesting.
Yeah.
But I think that the time will come that things get hard, things get uncomfortable, and the only thing that will mitigate that effectively is I'm going to trust you
Right.
to bring me to the other side of this. So like I said, we're in open enrollment right now. So everything on the front of my mind is benefits related. And
Yeah.
so for months, we have been working to build benefit plans that take care of our employees, that take care of
Right.
their families. And I am confident in saying that they trust us to do that. And that's
Yeah.
huge. We can't take that lightly. It's a big responsibility. But as hard as you try to make trust happen, it's really easy to lose. And then it's even harder to get back.
No. One of the things that's been pretty awesome is because there's a Simon Sinek video on trust and performance. And he says basically, we have all the metrics for performance in our organizations, but no metrics for trust.
Oh, I love it.
Right.
Whoa. Okay.
And so like I'm a big believer of that too. And trust actually informs performance.
I could buy into that. Absolutely.
Right. Like when people like low trust, like there's some statistic that says like 61% of employees say that low trust impacts their ability to get things done. And then there's another statistic, 58% of employees would trust a stranger over their own boss.
Oh,
Right.
that makes my HR
I know,
heart
I
so
know,
sad.
I know, but trust informs performance and we have no metrics. So one of the things that's been really cool is just like helping organizations like define what trust means for them in this season and then create a system, right? What are the behaviors? What are our trust values? What are the metrics? How do we all get rowing in the same direction? So it's been really powerful because I think for me, there's two reasons I found that trust fails, right? It's a failure to define it and a failure to operationalize it.
Okay.
And so, because trust is like this abstract thing, it means different things to different people. People
We
receive it.
talk about it, but what does it really mean?
Right. And so, like, as an organization, what does trust look like for this, us in this season? Like, maybe we're in a place where we are completely rebuilding trust. Like, maybe we are in a deficit. We are in a trust deficit. And so we are rebuilding trust. Or maybe we've done really well. We want to take it to the next level of trust. So it's like every organization is different. But I think that's been one of the cool things is like helping people like make trust very tangible for them and their
It
team.
would be, again, HR person.
Yeah.
When you look at the data that supports organizations that have high amounts of trust, what retention and turnover look like
No,
versus low trust. That would be an interesting.
I have some of those data. I just sent it to a client the other day, so I need to like relook at it. There's just a lot of things floating around in my brain, but it also impacts revenue and how much
Yes.
and also like mistrust is the most expensive thing on your profit and loss statement. Because think about it, when we don't trust people, we put controls in place. We buy software that we don't need. We duplicate positions because we're not leaning into this difficult conversation with this one employee that needs to improve their performance. I mean, it's multi-layered, but it's actually really expensive to have low trust.
So this is going to be the topic for your next book, right?
Oh, yes, it is.
I can't wait.
Well, I'm excited too because we're doing all these trust diagnostics, so I'm going to be able to also put data in it to say like,
Love it.
it's not going to be ready yet, but it will be. But anyway, okay. So to close us out, what is one? And again, you don't need the perfect answer because I'm kind of, blindsiding you, but in a high trust way, in a friendly, loving way, with this question. So what would you like? What is one of the best pieces of advice that you've ever received as a leader? And even on the flip side, a piece of advice that you would give leaders.
I have been very blessed in terms of the mentors I've had, the people that I have around me. But I think the best piece of advice that I have ever gotten that has really helped me as a leader is actually from my grandmother.
Yeah.
And so I call her Hot Mama.
Yeah.
And Hot Mama, even when she is having a bad day or is trying to be assertive, she's so bad at it. She's just so kind. And so whenever I was having a bad day, or just felt like that life was handing it to me, she would tell me, we don't have bad days. We have bad moments in your day. And so if you need to give yourself this day to just sulk or be sad or cry, that's okay. You can have today. And then tomorrow, we're not going to have a bad day.
Right.
And I have just replayed that, but and I think that that's a pep talk that I give myself, because you do have hiccups in your day, and you have obstacles that are covered by whatever dumpster fire is either your work life or your personal life or whatever. But the day is not bad. You had a bad moment in the day, and if you need the day to recover from that, that's okay. But we're going to get up on a fresh start tomorrow. So I really value that she gave to me. What advice would I give other leaders? I am, and maybe this is a season that I'm in, but I am really stuck on having people right now. It is so important to me. And I know that I'm an extrovert, but even if you're not an extrovert, to have a sounding board, to have the person that will take care of you when you are not good at taking care of you, will be a confidant. I think that that's really important. And I'm not talking about the person that's going to tell you what you want to hear. So sometimes our mamas are not the best because we can do no wrong. But that person that's going to come to you and say, Caitlin, you're being harsh, or Caitlin, you're not giving yourself enough credit, or Caitlin, did you think about XYZ? Or Caitlin, today's just a bad day and I'm going to have a bad day with you. I think that's important. And I think we, back to your comment about giving ourselves some grace. We have to know how to protect that space too.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Having the right people around you. I think some of the biggest help I've ever received is from people that have given me hard advice out of love.
Feedback is a gift.
Right? Like I got sober off of feedback that was given, unsolicited advice that was given to me from someone I respected. He had no idea I was struggling with addiction. Most recently, one of my mentors, I'm working on my keynote. I'm taking this very intensive keynote program, and I am just very highly scheduled. And I was like, I need a reality check here. I feel like maybe I need to extend my deadline, and I don't know if this program's right for me, and blah, 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 blah. I was in kind of a pity party. And my mentor was Vitale, like, you've talked about becoming a keynote and a highly paid keynote for years. So if this is important to you, you need to stop making excuses and buck up. And maybe you're going to have to work a little later every night this week.
Right. Yeah.
And I was so grateful she did. And I did. I worked late every night that week, but I was so glad because I was like, the work would have to get done, need to get done at some point.
Right. And I think for me, that's where a lot of that authenticity and that
Yeah.
that honesty from a leadership perspective comes in too, because, similarly to you, I know a lot of people,
Mhm.
I mean, I am all about engaging and
Yeah.
meeting, but when the going gets tough, because I'm also, my New Year's resolution was to be more vulnerable, and oh,
Mhm.
what a work in
Oh,
progress.
yeah.
Um, I'm very uncomfortable crying in front of people,
Yeah.
and so there are, all that to say, I know a lot of people and I have a lot of friends, but there's like three people that I would feel comfortable crying in front of and
Yeah.
didn't feel like I had to say I'm sorry or pretend it's not happening.
Yeah.
That's huge. And those are the people that tell me, Caitlin, you're being ridiculous
Yeah. Yeah.
or buck up.
Yeah. Back up. Um, well, awesome. Thank you for this amazing interview. I'm just so grateful that you
Oh,
came. I love the conversation. It flowed easily, but Caitlin, thank you so much. I'm so grateful you're in my life, and I'm grateful that all of the listeners to this interview will get to benefit from your wisdom and your energy and your expertise. So thank you so much.
well, thank you for having me, and I can't wait to read your next book.
Yes.